Instagram stories for Monday, April 28th. I'm your host, Daniel Hill. Today on the show, we're going to hear from the head of Instagram who shares the answers to the questions that he gets in his weekly Ask Me Anything. And we'll hear the second part of the interview I did with Heston Roberts of Social Varsity, talking about Instagram DM automation and specifically the app ManyChat. All of that on today's episode, but first, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Welcome back. We're diving into the questions from the head of Instagram, and let's start with the questions that have to do with edits. If you're not familiar, Edits is the new app that the Meta team launched, and it is available on Android and iOS as of last week. The first question, how's Edits so far? Here's Adam's answer.
It is super early days. Honestly, a really great launch day, lots of positive feedback, millions of people downloading and using the app, which is great to see. But it's a lot of early adopters, so we're not going to know a lot for a couple weeks. We know we've got a bunch of features that we got to build that are obvious and missing, and we got some exciting differentiated ideas coming too, so be patient, please.
I'll be honest, although I did download Edits and I opened it up, I checked it out a little bit, I'm still used to editing on the computer, so I'm not really going to spend too much time in the Edits app, but I'm sure at some point I will want to work on a video and I won't be near my computer and I'll have to use it. Let's do another Edits question. What is the use of the new Edits app?
The Edits app is for people who want to make videos on their phone, not for just posts of your kids, but people who are trying to make, videos as a creator. Ideally, it's not just about video editing, it's about getting inspired, keeping track of your ideas, yes, editing and capturing, but also seeing how those videos or reels do on Instagram so you can continue to iterate and improve. So hopefully it'll support the entire creative process.
Okay, that's it for the Edits questions. Let's move on to an Instagram question having to do with blends. If you're not familiar, blends is a new feature that the Instagram team rolled out, I want to say 2 weeks ago now, and it allows you to create a feed of reels that you and a friend can watch together, and that blend will be populated with reels you will both probably find interesting. The question, does using blends change my personal reels feed? Here's Adam's answer.
No, using blends in and of itself won't change your feed, but if you do like things while you're looking at reels or you comment on them, that will mean that we'll try to show you more reels like those things in the future, just the same way if you like or comment on anything on Instagram does.
Okay, let's go on to the next question, and let's do a little bit of an unusual question. How did you come up with the idea for Instagram? Adam Mosseri did not invent Instagram. Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger were the two creators of Instagram. I had the author, Sarah Fryer, who wrote No Filter, the inside story of Instagram, on my podcast twice. And we talked about all of the history of the Instagram app. So if you haven't read that book, I definitely recommend it. But here's Adam explaining that no, he did not actually invent Instagram.
I didn't. I joined Instagram years into its existence. I was working at Facebook before. Mike Krieger and Kevin Systrom came up with Instagram. It actually started as a location sharing app and evolved into a photo sharing app. It was originally called Bourbon, so they get the credit for that.
I will link to Sarah's book in the show notes. If you haven't read it, again, you absolutely should. Let's go on to the next question. Can private accounts post public reels? No, that's not how it works. If you have a private account, everything you share is going to be private.
No, you cannot post a public reel or a public photo or carousel if you have a private account. Basically, if you have a private account, the most public anything can be is to just your followers, and that's the whole point of a private account, is that you can be confident nothing's going to go and be public that you post.
Okay, let's move on to a feature request that Adam doesn't think is a good idea, and frankly, I don't think is a good idea either. Will we ever be able to save other people's stories into a collection we can look at later? I see where the person is going with this idea, but stories are meant to only last for 24 hours unless you choose to put them in your story highlights. And as you know, I think story highlights are stupid. Adam shoots down the idea pretty well. Here's the clip.
No, because one of the reasons why I think people are more comfortable sharing the stories is it's only going to be around for 24 hours. If you could just easily snag it and keep it for yourself forever, that might go against that sort of whole idea.
I mean, you could always just download the story directly. I use a website to download Adam's AMAs that he makes on his stories. I will link to the website that I use to do that in the show notes. You can download reels, stories, whatever you want directly, and it works really well. And the last question we're going to talk about today, how do I make a collab post with someone? I definitely recommend making collab posts because it goes in both of your feeds, giving both of your followers an opportunity to see it. Tagging someone is not the same as a collab post. You can tag someone in a post, but that does not make it show up in their feed. However, adding them as a collaborator ensures that it shows up in both of your feeds.
For those of you who don't know, collab post is when you post from two people at once and you go to both of your followers, and you can be shown recommendations as well. When you make a post, just go to tag, and one of the options when you're tagging another account should be to add someone as a collaborator, and then they'll have to approve it on their side, and then it'll go to both of your follower sets.
Okay, that's it for the question and answer part of the episode. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, you'll hear the rest of my interview with Heston Roberts from Social Varsity talking about Instagram DM automation using ManyChat. Welcome back. Here's the rest of the interview that I did with Heston Roberts talking about DM automation on Instagram. And in this section, he gives you some things that you should absolutely not do when it comes to Instagram DM automation and the reason why.
So there are certain things that you can and can't do. One of the big ones that you can't do or you shouldn't do is send the link initially in the first message.
Oh.
And we've realized now they don't really say it out loud, but ManyChat has started making small changes where they actually inform you to prompt them with a question first and then send the link. Now, this is only for if you comment on a post. This isn't if you DM them directly,
right.
Whether in the IG story or in a DM. This is only for if you comment. And the reason for this is because, let's say, for example, the word is live. Well, if you comment the word live, you would get an automation, a message. But if you comment the word lively, the word live is in the word lively, and that person did not intend to actually get an automation.
Okay.
But because of the way the automation works, they would end up getting a message.
Right.
So because of this, they set on these certain rules where you have to prompt them, hey, did you mean to get this automation? What, are you looking for this freebie? You would word it however you want, but it's a way for you to prompt the user first before you send them the actual promise.
That's good. So there's a little bit of an extra confirmation in there, like a two-step, I guess, would be how I would think about it. But that makes sense. You also mentioned about TikTok. Can you explain a little bit about how ManyChat and this DM automation works with TikTok? Because this is something I think a lot of people are getting more comfortable with as they build more of an audience on TikTok.
Yeah, well, let me first be very honest. I have not used it on TikTok myself yet because it was only open to a few individuals initially, and it's only available to certain countries. So most of the people that I know that really want it, they're actually outside of the US. Now, I haven't played around with this just yet, but it kind of works the same way in regards to if you're on a post on TikTok, you would comment the message and get a link in your DMs. Now, I'm not 100% familiar with TikTok. I haven't used it in a couple years, especially now what's going on, especially in the US.
It's quite a ride, yes.
Yeah, but it's pretty much the same process as it is on Instagram, but it's only available for a few countries at the moment.
Okay, interesting. One question that I think people might be concerned about is that if they tell people to comment freebie or comment whatever, that the algorithm on Instagram, on whatever platform, is going to punish them for asking for people to comment a specific word and people only writing a comment that's only one word long. What would you say about that?
Well, I wouldn't say that there's any concern about that. My biggest problem would be how many comments are you getting and how many are you replying to? Because that's one of the other issues that Instagram has fault with. They don't mind if you automate the DMs because as far as they're concerned, that's private, not the entire public is seeing it. But when it comes to the comment replies, which you are able to do, there's still a limit. Now, what that number is, I don't believe anybody knows. But if, let's just say, for example, you put out a post and it receives 1,000 comments, and you have a comment reply that simply says, thanks, I just sent you a DM. Well, if you have 1,000 comments and you have a comment reply set, now you have 2,000 comments. And the algorithm looks at that and says, this looks fishy. This doesn't look right. I'm going to actually action block this person because I think that they're using some form of spam. Are they or are they not? Technically, they are using automation and it is approved, but it's the comments that is causing a problem because you're getting so many comments in such a quick amount of time. It looks very fishy.
Interesting.
So what I've actually told some of my clients before, if you have like 50,000 followers or more, you're more likely to get a lot of comments at once. So just take that off. You can take it off. You can put it back on whenever you want. I say, Johnny, what I've noticed is when you're in the 50,000 follower range, you're more likely to get that high amount. So for whatever reason, take it off for that point. I'm sorry. Take it off for those purposes so that you don't get action blocked. I think at this point in time now where everybody comments a certain word, they know where to get the link.
Right.
They know it's going to be in the DM inbox.
Right. Yes. People are familiar enough with the concept. They might not know how it works.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking about as well is the variety of people that might benefit from setting up this kind of automation. What sort of clients do you normally work with, and who do you see this benefiting? Is it only people who sell things online, or do you think maybe stores, brick and mortar, other people could benefit from it also?
I would like to say almost anybody if you are some form of business or a creator, because in some way, shape, or form, you want to engage with your audience. And that's one of the beautiful things about ManyChat is not only does it allow you to send links in the DMs, but you're able to invoke engagement. You know, when they see comment this X word, the person would comment and get a deliverable of what they want in the DM. But now you also have engagement. The algorithm looks in and says, hey, there's some form of relationship. And it's all these signals that the algorithm bases their decision on. So even when I comment a certain word on a post and I get that in the link, I'm now more available to see your content on the feed because the algorithm says there's some form of relationship. He's commented before on this post, so send him more posts from this same creator in the future. Whenever you comment on somebody's post, you ever realize that you start to see their content a lot more?
Oh, yeah, of course.
That's exactly what the algorithm wants.
Yeah.
They figure that there's a relationship, so they're going to start sending you that. And if you're telling them to actually comment in the DMs, on an IG story, on a post, you're just going to start seeing a lot more of your reach increase because they're simply using one keyword on a post.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there for a quick minute. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Heston is going to tell you some more things that you should not be doing with DM automation. And you're probably seeing other people do this, but that does not mean that you should. Stick around. Welcome back. In this section of the interview with Heston, I ask him what people should not be doing with ManyChat, and he actually gives a very good example. Are there any things that people are doing with ManyChat that you think people should not be doing? Like they were using it in a specific way, or maybe they're doing something that might be skirting the rules a little bit?
Yes. Unfortunately, there's a big trend right now. And I'm very often on threads talking about some of these things. And one of the big ones is there's a big complaint that you can set ManyChat to work without a keyword. So if anybody comments anything on a post, that could trigger an automation.
Oh,
there is that feature.
I didn't even know that was possible. I see why that would be potentially a not great idea, but I didn't know that.
Because what they'll do is, I found some creators that I'm talking about 6-figure creators, money and follower wise, and they would comment or put up a post that says, "Hey, this is me at Walt Disney World." And people say, "Oh, this is great. Oh, I'm going next week. You know, did you go on the teacup ride?" And that would trigger an automation, and you would get in your inbox them selling you whatever package or product that they have available. And people do not like that.
Yeah, it's very sneaky to you're kind of almost taking advantage, right? Because they didn't ask for that DM, they didn't comment the specific keyword. Very interesting. Since you brought up threads, and I'm glad you did, I have seen some of your conversations that are on there, and you've really been providing, I would say, a lot of support to people who are getting started with automation, getting started with ManyChat. Can you talk a little bit about how you've been using threads? Because I have only seen those, but also how you've been doing that, using threads to build relationships.
I love threads. It's a breath of fresh air in regards to the social media platforms lately, where I would say it's mostly positive. It's funny that you asked me this today, because I actually posted something today, and it is getting a lot of heat. Do not talk about LeBron James. Do not talk about LeBron James negatively in any way, shape, or form. People will jump on you. I'm just going to, really quick, I posted recently on Threads, and I don't know anything about dogs. I'm not a dog person. And I posted, people who walk your dogs without a leash, why do you do that? Like that, I didn't mean it in a malicious way. Just lately I've been seeing a lot of people walk their dogs without a leash.
I have never gotten so much engagement. Some people were horribly angry. Some people were trying to explain it to me in small words. But to your point, it's exactly right. When you say something that people feel quite strongly about, that's when they'll really give you a lot of engagement on your content, on your posts. So please continue. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No problem at all, because that's a good and a bad thing. If you're able to use that to start conversations, now it just really depends on what type of conversation are you willing to start, and where can it lead to. With ManyChat, I like to I go into the hashtag in the search area, and I go in and I make sure, if anybody has any questions, I try to jump in. I think if you go to Threads right now in the search section for ManyChat, I'm probably on like the first 10 posts. I've replied to majority of people.
You really have.
And it started some great conversation to the point where now people, when others have questions about ManyChat, now people mention me in the post before I even see it.
That's what you want.
Exactly.
You're the guy. Suddenly everyone knows, oh, Heston's the most knowledgeable. You have to ask him. That's really smart.
And I've been able to build a lot of relationships, whether just as clients or as friends, or even, just getting to know people, where I also have a weekly series as well that I might be able to get them on now as a guest, depending on what it is that they specialize in. So Threads has been a really interesting use of a platform for me to find new clients and just build new relationships with people.
I do want to talk about your weekly show. We'll come to that in a second. But do you mind talking about how you actually are finding these conversations on Threads? Because I think some people feel like, oh, just another platform. I don't have time for yet another. Some people were so tied into the way Twitter worked that they can't imagine starting all over from scratch and finding a new audience and finding new people to connect with. Some people recognize, hey, there's keyword search here. I understand that I can search, but you are consistently on top of conversations around automation. So how do you actually do that? What are the tools you use, or what is the setup that you have so that you can keep on top of these conversations?
Well, I'll tell you this. My schedule is a little crazy when it comes to Threads. I work out 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, good for you, man. That's awesome.
In between every set, I try to at least comment on at least 3 or 5 threads. So the majority of my activity is actually in the morning. So what happens is, what I've noticed is when I've been doing that, I'll leave Threads alone maybe till around lunchtime or some other time of the day. But all of those threads that I've actually commented on, it continues to get engagement throughout the rest of the day. The other thing is, I schedule my threads that I create myself. This is a game changer in regards to spending time on the actual app. At the same time, at the gym, I will schedule 5 threads to be posted every 4 hours. It's literally, if you go down my Threads profile, every 4 hours, there's a new thread being posted. Actually, as we came here, started this podcast, I think I had one scheduled for 2 o'clock.
Perfect. I love that. So when you schedule it, do you use the Threads scheduler, or do you use a third-party tool?
I use the Threads scheduler on the phone, but I've actually been exploring with the desktop version of Threads, and I could get addicted to it because of all the panels that they have.
Yes.
It's really cool. It reminds me of one of the old Twitter platforms that they use.
TweetDeck?
TweetDeck.
I
That was
used
the
to love
name of
TweetDeck.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
back in the day, absolutely.
I remember that one. It is very similar to that, but I would even say a little bit more advanced because it shows you some of the stats and analytics, and you're able to get certain other columns that you could customize. But Threads has been really great in regards to finding conversations. Like I said, other than this conversation that I had today, the majority of the conversations I've had have been very positive. I've been able to meet some great people. And the funny thing about it is, a lot of the people I meet on Threads, I would have never met on Instagram, just due to the conversations that we are in. Some of the conversations I am in, other than ManyChat and social media, I've been able to talk to, I'm big into Marvel and Legos. I've been exploring that type of niche audience on Threads, but I wouldn't normally do that on Instagram because I'm more focused on business. So it's been interesting.
That is, I think fundamentally how the platforms work is different, right? Because you can search on Instagram, you can look for hashtag Marvel or Legos, but there's millions, if not billions of posts. But on Threads, you're liable to find an interesting conversation about those topics that you can jump into, just primarily because it's text-based, but also just the way hashtags and conversations are grouped is different on Threads. I'm glad you brought up the columns. For those of you who are watching at home, TweetDeck is from the early 2010s, and it was a app that would give you columns on Twitter, and you could search Twitter and then pin those columns. So you could have a column for Marvel, a column for Legos, or whatever other things you're interested in tracking. And you could even set up those columns based on keywords, but also location. So you could look for all the people who are writing posts who lived within a 5-mile radius of your home. And who knows what kind of people you could connect with and find. And so you can do something similar with Threads, where you can create those columns, you can pin them, you can track conversations that way. And that is a great way to use the platform. I personally haven't done it on mobile, but I know you can do it on the desktop version when you use a web browser to track those conversations. It sounds like that's what you've been having good success with.
Yes, definitely. And just to kind of bring it back home, I've been using some of those ref URLs from ManyChat to actually bring people back to my Instagram, depending on if it's a promotion or some sort of campaign that I'm running. I've been able to bring them back. And depending on how I create the ManyChat automation, I might actually tell them, hey, you need to follow me on Instagram first to get the rest of this deliverable, whatever I'm presenting to them.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. If you want to hear the rest of my interview with Heston, or you want to watch it, you can do that too. I will link to all of that, including how to get in touch with Heston, in the show notes. As always, thank you for listening, and be sure to come back next time for more social media news, strategy, and other things that you need to know.
Let me tell you a couple things that you should know about me. A product manager, but do not have a bachelor's degree. But actually, that's factually a fraction of me. Another fraction's posting content irregular and irrationally. Still probably won't get a job at the Gram. They forgot, they don't know, or don't care who I am. That's why you never see me at the parties and events. My lack of followers must make me irrelevant. Don't have a course, a book to sell to make a bag of grand. Not a social media marketer, don't represent any brands. Plain to see, don't have an agency, but I got a lot of spam. Just putting in my work without the glitz and glam. Won't catch me eating fish unless it's shrimp or clam. No six pack, no risk that there's a gym card in my hand. Don't have a full-time job, but I got a lot of plans. Stay plotting, dropping knowledge on TikTok and Instagram.